So I want to share with you some insights from a book I read recently because I think it can help us to position ourselves positively in a world that appears to be increasingly polarized. This is A Post-Truth World by Ken Wilber, in which he lays out an archetype of human development. This archetype applies both to individuals as they move through their life cycle, and it also applies to, he argues, societies as they progress from primitive understandings of reality to more advanced understandings of reality. What he did is he started looking at the theories of development from psychology, from religion, from various cultural traditions around the world, and he found that there's commonalities among or between each of the stages that these theories of development see people as moving through. And so by looking at these commonalities, he develops archetypes of human development. He helpfully or unhelpfully color codes them according to the colors of the rainbow. So I'll just quickly explain some of the major stages, then show how that applies to the way that we position ourselves in the world as people, as leaders, as brands. So the first stage I want to talk about is color-coded red. That's the egocentric stage. Early in our life, we learn to develop a theory of our own selves. And we need to construct an ego. We need to have ego integrity in order to survive in the world. It's also referred to as a magical stage. From the magical stage, we move to the mythic stage, which now is ethnocentric because there is a shared understanding of how reality operates. There is a mythic structure. There's often hierarchies. There are different examples that I could give of societies or people moving from the egocentric to the ethnocentric stage. In evangelical Christendom, this is often the way that we conceptualize being saved. You move from being driven by your own ego needs, the desires of self, to being driven by what the community and God says is acceptable. You could give lots of other examples, but I think that gives you a sense of the ethnocentric stage, or amber. From the ethnocentric stage, which is about us, first person plural pronoun, we move to orange, or the world-centric stage. And this is where rationality comes to the fore. So if you look at the world around you, this is the world that was built by orange. We're looking for rules now that apply to everyone. So classic liberal thinking. We're looking for systems that can be spread all around the world, such as democracy, free markets, things that we think if we apply this to everyone everywhere, then things would get better. In the 60s and 70s, we start to see orange people look beyond this rationalistic world to a postmodern world. Wilber describes this as green. This is moving into a more compassionate and inclusive model where truth is fluid and there's a lot of hybridization, that we're blurring the boundaries between categories. And if you look at the progressive left today, which is what Wilber does largely in this book, The Post-Truth World, you can see that this is the philosophy of life that is coming to the fore. So where do we go from here? Where do we go in a world that is split right down the middle between green-dominated politics and culture and red-amber dominated politics and culture? Meanwhile, and I would say probably a lot of people listening to me on LinkedIn, business leaders are running things within an orange mindset, regardless of where they are personally. That orange mindset is still how a lot of things in the world are run, or how we conceptualize the way they're run, which could be two different things. So how do we position ourselves? Well, he says that there could be a later stage, and that's what he wants to see emerge now. That's what he calls integrative, when it's going to be teal, of course, as we move the visible spectrum. And this is something that learns to integrate all things and be able to simultaneously draw from structured views of reality, rational views of reality, egocentric views of reality, inclusive views of reality, and incorporate that into a wise way of being. How do we do this as brands? Well, I want to give you an example of a way not to do it. And that's, don't go all in on any one stage. If you need to make a statement, that's right. I mean, if you need to sell pillows to red stage people, then make a red stage or an amber stage company, and that's fine. At the same time, if you want to appeal to the broad spectrum of the population, you can use your own wisdom to combine these. If you look at a website, you can quickly see if this was put together by someone with green in mind. Remember, green, the values are hybridization, inclusivity, fluidity, and so you'll see a lot of blended colors, oranges, greens, very far away from primary colors, color gradients, fluidity, swirls. These are things that just scream, hey, we're progressive. And not just what you say, it's also all of the ways that your brand presents itself in the world gives an impression on people. So that's fine. And again, if you need to make that statement, or if that's the population that you're appealing to, then that might be important. But there's also ways that you can combine this, and that you can create structure, that you can create some hard edges. You can have some symbols or some language that help people who are in a red or an amber stage, or people in green who are feeling anxious and need some sense of stability. There's something within your brand and your presentation that's going to call out to them. So that's just an example of how we can use wisdom to be truly integrative, rather than staking our entire identities as a company, as a leader, entire careers on picking one of the generations. So that's really the takeaway. All of you are wise people, you're leaders, you can learn wisdom, you have wisdom. You don't need to go all in on one of these generations. Learn how you can truly appreciate people who are at each stage, that you can see the strengths that that aspect of existence has to offer everyone, and then make a commitment that what you do in the world is going to help people accomplish that. It's going to help people become the best version of the stage that they're in, and then be ready when it's time to move to the next stage. So that is a summary of Ken Wilber's overall framework, its application in the post-truth world, and I hope a couple of key takeaways that you can apply to your own business and your own life.